All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Carly Kirkpatrick. I started the Noi Siamo Italiani page to sort of piggyback off our dual citizenship friends who've been so kind to allow us to sort of join us here. Many of our dual citizenship friends are presenting today. And then also to kind of reach out to you guys and just we want to kind of take it to the next level, help you guys in other ways beyond, they do such a great job helping you get your citizenship and acquire that. And then we're hoping to help build more community and take that community, because it's such a great community, and keep it going over here. So we're so glad to have you. One of the big things that people wanted to talk about was the possibilities of moving to Italy. And so we created, I created this series of events, and the series of events is going to be called Move to Italy. And then we're going to have different events each month to try to give you more information. This month, we're talking about selecting a location. Next month, we will talk about taxes. Brian from the Dual Citizenship page has a connection with a tax lawyer and said he would bring him about. We'll talk about another month, renting and purchasing, and then logistics and, kids in schools, things like that. So stay with us if you want for the, next couple months. We'll try to get you as much information as we can. And so, yeah, just admitting a few more people here. Just note, I don't have the chat open right now because I guess everybody's going to see it. Oh, ciao, saying hi to everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We want to say thank you to our presenters because they are taking their own personal time to come here and talk to us today. And we really do appreciate everything that they are willing to share. And that's something that's been so wonderful about this community, is that everybody is so willing to share and participate, and give each other information. So do thank them heartily, whether in the chat or when you see them in some of the other pages and stuff. Okay, so I'm going to get started because I do want to make sure that we keep a timely fashion. I don't want everybody to go crazy, being stuck here all day. What I was thinking is that we're going to try to keep everything to 5 minutes each for our presenters and for myself. We will start by going over questions that people had posted on Facebook. Then we'll take some live questions. At a certain point, we'll try to cut it off, and we can take those questions over to the Noi Siamo page, because we can continue the conversation there. I mean, we could be here for hours otherwise. So I just want to make sure that we are mindful of everyone's time. So I'm setting a timer for myself. I hopefully won't need 5 minutes. I will give you a little background on what to think about when you're moving to Italy and selecting a location. All right, so I'm going to, everybody sees my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. All right, here we go. All right, so just some things to keep in mind. A quick disclaimer for me over here at Noi Siamo Italiani. I'm not affiliated or liable for anything here. We're not affiliated with the Italian government or governmental agency. This isn't legal advice. This is just information. We're sharing information. If you need more, definitely follow up with your legal consultants and things like that, okay? So you're more than welcome to ask questions, but remember that we are, not official professionals necessarily. Some might be, but I'm not personally, so keep that in mind. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I'm trying to select a location that works for me and my family in terms of buying a second residence. And so these are some things I kind of Googled real quick to find like what we should consider in selecting a location. You have to think about employment. Are you retired? Are you looking for work? Or are you working remotely? That could make a difference on where you choose. When we talk about affordability, the cost of housing and cost of living could be more expensive in the north or in the cities, or cheaper in the south or in the rural areas. For climate, you're going to have more proper winters in the north where you'll see some snow, but it's going to be more mild in the south, okay, if that's important to you. Proximity to transportation. Keep in mind, you have to get there, right? And you have to be able to get around. So is it near major airports? What kind of rail connectivity does the town have? Does it have any public transit? And then do you need or want a car? And then that's going to be a whole other, set of things to think about. Okay. Oh, 1 second. And then what should I consider in selecting my location? Again, size of town or city. Do you prefer to live out in the country? Do you need a bustling city? Some of the people today are going to give you an idea of what their locations are like, and that might help you better select or think about, your different locations. Proximity to healthcare. Everybody's needs differ. How close do you need to be to a major hospital or specific doctors? And then education. That's only going to apply to certain people if they're moving with small children or kids that are still in school age. Do you need international schools, local schools? What your options are there. I don't know, everybody will kind of chime in with what their things are with that today. If they have anything they can offer, or you can always follow up and ask them later about their towns if you need to. Okay, so andiamo. Our presenters are going to kind of tell us where they live or where they have lived. What led you to choose your location? What are some pros and cons of your location? And would you do anything differently next time? Oh, look at that. I kept it well under 5 minutes. So no one wants to hear me talk anyway. You guys are here to listen to them, as am I. So, all right. So Carol's going to kick us off here.
Oh, okay.
Carol, you're first. With Orbitello, which is in well, you can share with it. It's where it's located. I'll let you go ahead and go. I'm going to mute myself so that I don't contaminate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had a hard time sending photos. I told Carly this because I live in an area that's very photogenic because we're on the water and there's a lot of wildlife and nature preserves here. So, I don't know. Picture me there with the mimosa tree. That's the mimosa is that was on International Women's Day. So that's the flower, the national flower that represents that there. You can see Orbitello is sitting in the middle of the water as it is. It's actually in a lagoon, which is a wildlife preserve area. So we are really surrounded by quite a lot of interesting wildlife. And there's other pictures that will come through that show the flamingos and the windmill, which are both significant of the area. If you Google the town, you'll see those things will come up. The flamingos live here in the Laguna, and there's always a flood of people taking photos. And the windmill dates back to the 16th century when it's from when the Spaniards had settled in this area. So they're just landmark things here. I jotted down my little notes. Okay. Why I chose Orbitello. I traveled quite extensively in Italy before, so I've been all over. I've been to, north, south, east, west, small towns, big towns. I've done all that. But when the decision was to come here, the one thing I knew I wanted was to be somewhere where people could access me, my family, my friends, if they wanted to come and visit. So as my ancestral hometown is in the south, it's in Campania, but it's up in the mountains, a beautiful town, but it's remote. I love visiting. I've been there a number of times. I know my family, but it wouldn't have been the right place for me to live. I wanted to be somewhere where I could get around and where other people could come and see me, and where I would every day be able to walk outside and just enjoy looking around and in my environment. I discovered Orbitello very significant this year, 20 years ago, when I was looking for a language school. I wanted to study in Tuscany. I wanted to be near the beach because that's my life. I wanted a small town because I wanted to be immersed in the language to study. So I came here. I encountered another American traveling at the same time as me who had just come from the school here. So she made the recommendation. So I came here. Day 2 of school was 911. I had never, obviously none of us ever thought anything like that could ever happen. But if I had to ever be anywhere during a crisis like that, it was really very wonderful to be here. I was the only American in town, and the word got out in town. People were coming up to me in the streets. I was getting a lot of hugs and cries and all of that. So I was it bonded me to this town. It's something that I'll never forget, the feeling that this town gave me that I belonged here and that they would take care of me. So that's like my emotional story and my connection to this town. And to this day, there are still some people that come up to me and say, I remember you were here when the towers fell. And this is 20 years later, and they still remember that now that I live here. So, but the other thing also was that I considered, in looking at your list, I wanted to be somewhere that had good public transportation because I had no desire to buy a car. And we do. I am only 90 miles north of Rome, so I can get into Rome to the airport easily, or to Rome and other places easily. We have good buses here. I actually live walking distance to the train station, and so that part is very comfortable for me. Occasionally I rent, when I have company, or if I just want to do some things, I may rent a car for a week. But I don't miss having a car. I don't miss the hassle, the maintenance, the gas, all of that. So, but that's me. I don't work. I came here retired. So it's not, the urgency isn't there for me to be able to get up and go places. So I don't really, I'm surrounded by, if you can, I don't know, look at this photo, the little map photo there on the right of your screen where Orbitello is. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. We're in the middle of the lagoon, as you can see, but those outer arms, the outer side of those arms is all beach. And the bus service in the summertime is, I buy a pass for the whole summer. So it's a quick bus ride to the beach. That's my life really in the summertime. Is I do the beach every day. I spend all my time on the beach. I do everything on the beach because I read. There's great restaurants. There's great people. I've met a lot of friends who are regulars like me at the beach. If you scroll through, you have these are the only photos you put
Yeah,
up?
you know what? Because I only did a slide for everybody, but I can post some more of them on the page.
Okay.
Well, so I can do that for sure.
Because I had sent her some photos of
God, there's so many amazing ones. Yeah, so many amazing. I was like, I don't know what to pick. I gotta pick.
I know. I didn't know how many you needed. So
no, that's fine. But yeah, we can keep sharing them on the page. But cool. Any
that was a big reason for me coming here is the beach. So that's really kind of my thing. And the sunsets and the sunrises and all of that is just like glorious for me. Awesome. This picture I'm glad you picked this one in the middle because that's like the water and the sky is gorgeous.
Just so blue. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't really think, honestly, I don't think there's any, going to your little list there. I don't really say there's any cons to living here. I chose it. I made friends 20 years ago that I still have today. And I can still get to see my family. I can take the trips. I've done that. And I'm still in touch with the language school here. I still see them regularly. The headmaster at the school, she and I get together. So, she's always drilling me every day. She drills me. I can't have dinner with her without a notebook because she gives me lessons and corrects me. So, it's a lifetime bond.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Carol. We'll have Carol will still be here to answer. I've got some questions already coming up, so we'll get to those towards the end. So I'll keep track of them here to make sure. If you have a question for a specific place or person, if you don't mind throwing that in with the question, and then we can kind of direct it to the right person too as well. That'll help me since I'll be the one giving out the questions. So cool. So we'll get started with the next one. We've got Emily in Grosseto. And sorry, I don't know if you guys are seeing like my little chat box and stuff that are up here. So I'm trying to hide everything so it doesn't get in the way of the beautiful photos. So yeah, I will.
I don't see chat box.
You don't see the chat box. Okay, good. So it's just seeing for me. So, all right. So Emily's from living in Grosseto, which is actually, like you guys were saying, 30 minutes away from where Carol is.
Yep.
So go ahead and tell us more about it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily. I don't know if you can see me.
They might have.
You have to scroll over to see the other participants. They just have to hit the arrow to scroll over.
Okay. Well, it says everybody can. It must just automatically come on when I start talking. So, okay. Hello. A little bit about me. I am originally from Pennsylvania. I had most recently been living in Colorado. I've been a member of the dual citizenship community on Facebook for probably 5 or 6 years, back when it was kind of a small group. I was lucky to get started a little bit ahead a little bit ahead of the time. So it had been a dream for a long time to find a way to make this a reality. I will spare you the gory details of exactly how I got here. Honestly, I came on a fact-finding mission, a 6-week break, if you will, in October. And as time went by, it really became more and more realistic that already being here for 6 weeks, I decided to stay. And it was not originally the intention to do so. But time, like I said, time went by and things just sort of fell into place. So Grosseto is a part of the Maremma. Like Carol was mentioning, it's all part of this very natural and very wild area of Italy that if you ask Italians, they will tell you that this is one of the most beautiful places in the country. This is where Italians come to take beach vacations and they absolutely love it. This area, it was extraordinarily underdeveloped because in the Middle Ages, it was a malarial swamp. And so people avoided this area like the plague, and nothing ever really grew the way that other areas in Tuscany and, south of here in Lazio and even north of here, things here just stayed very small and very provincial. So for me, I like it. Grosseto it's a big enough city for me where you can get everything that you need. Most modern conveniences are available here. Shops that you've heard of. It's big enough. But it is also small enough that just the other day I went to a new butcher shop and I went back and they remembered my name. So you definitely have that very Italian feeling here, but yet you still feel connected to the outside world. As far as I'm concerned with pros and cons, like Carol alluded to, the location here in this part of Italy cannot be beat. I'm 1 hour from Siena, 2 hours from Florence, 2 hours from Rome. And, obviously being so close to Rome, you're connected to the entire world. So direct flights to the US, direct flights to anywhere else are obviously available, low cost. So as far as that connectedness, I feel pretty good about it. I don't feel isolated, even though this community is somewhat isolated. Somebody just asked if there are train times or driving times. I would say it's pretty neck and neck. The train here is fairly direct. There are stops, but it doesn't take much longer. If hopefully that answers your question. 2 hours is a rough estimate, depending on traffic. And then I would say that the reason why I decided to stay here after coming here on a visit is the climate and the natural surroundings. So being from Colorado, I am used to being able to walk out my back door and to commune with nature, hug a tree. And I feel like this place is actually more accessible to natural things than anywhere else. Now, granted, I came here in the middle of COVID. I mean, I don't recommend moving in the middle of a global pandemic the way I did. So what I'm experiencing, I'm not sure if it's actually the way it will be in the future. But there is so much to see and so much to do. I would argue that Grosseto is like the California of Italy. You have the beach on one side and 40 minutes in the other direction, you can reach a mountain, if you will, high elevation. There was snow in the winter, you can snowshoe, you can ski. They have this alpine environment where you can go there in the morning and then in the afternoon, you can come and walk on the beach. So there's a huge biking community. If any of you are cyclists, whether it's mountain biking or road biking, I had my bike shipped here. It was the best thing I ever did. I absolutely adore it. And the agriculture here is fantastic. So, I mean, this is the breadbasket kind of in the center here. I mean, obviously the South has a long season too, but I love, just today I had strawberries for lunch and they were grown 30 minutes from here. So I feel at home. I feel very comfortable in this place. And another good thing is that it is super family oriented. There's a lot of families. People come back here and seek this place out to raise families. So if anybody out there has kids, it's definitely a benefit.
Awesome.
As far as the cons go, obviously, to me, there are always going to be a few negatives, but I would say, unless you are absolutely fluent in Italian, finding employment here is very challenging. I have had a lot of support here, which I am grateful for, and I have had some opportunities to do some small things, and now I am working part-time at a winery near here, which I am grateful for every day, but it was not easy. So unless you are remote working or are retired, it's certainly doable, but strong language skill is helpful. And depending on what you think, I would say that this area, like Carol said, is somewhat devoid of expats. I mean, there aren't any. The community is very Italian. So if you want to immerse yourself, this is a good spot. There's not a lot of English speakers. So it's definitely, if that's what you're looking for, this is a good spot. And then despite how central everything is, I believe that Orbitello is even a little bit more of a resort community. And, but I found it very necessary to have a car. So I didn't even think about not having one. So depending on how you feel about that, that's something you might need to consider. As far as cost of living, I will say I'm officially in the market for an apartment at the moment. And I would say 2-bedroom in Grosseto in the city is somewhere around $600 to $700 a month for the rent. Obviously, there's a plethora of other expenses. Everyone will tell you utilities here are amazingly expensive when it comes to power and gas and things like that. But other things like internet and telephones are incredibly inexpensive. So
great. I'm so sorry, Emily, I got to cut you off, but I'm going to move on to, we're going to round out our Tuscany tour with Michael, who just moved to Lucca.
Hi.
So Michael, thanks for joining us. I'll let you have your spot. Go ahead.
Okay, so hi, I'm Michael, newly moved to Lucca, but not new to Tuscany. My mother was born and raised in Florence, and so I'm pretty familiar with both that part of Tuscany as well as Umbria. That's another part of my family. So I obtained or proved my JS citizenship around 20 years ago, but I don't know why it never occurred to me that might be useful someday when I was going to move here, which I knew was always in my future, but it was always 5 to 10 years in the future. I was busy working and so on and so forth. And we ended up, I don't know, the word doesn't come out of my mouth easily, retiring here recently. If you told me that we were going to be retiring in Italy a year ago, I would have said, oh, so we won the lottery. No, that's not what happened. Oh, so we came into some money. Well, sort of, but not really. Just an amazing opportunity occurred for us to sell our house because the housing market is insane. And we lived in Phoenix, which is kind of the epicenter of crazy house prices. And we ended up about a half mile from friends of ours who also used to live in Phoenix, and they moved here 3 years ago. So we already have the beginnings of a social support structure, I guess you would say, network here. And we had considered Rome, or somewhere around Rome or somewhere in this area, and the pros and cons we weighed came down to transit, cost of living, being near a major airport, and other opportunities as far as what we do with our time here. I still want to work, so I may look for some kind of work sooner or later here. But we ended up choosing Lucca because of this amazing opportunity that came up with this apartment we found not far from our friends who are already here. And we pulled the trigger and made it happen. So I've spent the better part of this year here getting things ready, but my wife and I just showed up here together with our cats about 10 days ago. So we're still settling in. I do speak Italian. There's a significant expat community here, so that's certainly helpful for my wife who doesn't speak Italian. Transportation is an interesting topic. When we were planning this, we weren't sure that a car was in our budget, but I had been here and I knew there was a bus stop out here. So I said, oh, well, there's transit. We might need a car. Well, fortunately, our friends who were already here sold us their car at a really good price because it turned out it's super useful here. We're just a little bit west of Lucca. You have to go a mile into town where you get any kind of regular bus service where it's convenient for daily living. Versus here, it's kind of like a go to work, go to school bus schedule. So it's really not convenient for, say, I want to go stay out late in the Centro Storico and just ride the bus home. No, you can't do that. I need to go to the store to get something. I'm just hop on the bus. You can't do that. So I would tell everyone, when you're considering a place in Italy, really pay attention to the public transit issue. How frequent is it? If you plan on going to Rome, are there strikes all the time? Which I hear happens in Rome. So, you know, I'm with, I believe our last speaker was Carol. Was that her name? No, Carol was the first speaker.
Emily was the
presenter
previous one.
Emily, sorry, Emily. I'm with Emily, where sometimes you might actually need to get a car to have that flexibility in your life to go run errands. I will say that one thing that offsets the approximately $7 per gallon price of gasoline here is generally you shouldn't have to drive that much. I mean, I'm sure we'll spend less per month on gas at $7 a gallon than we did in Phoenix at $2-3 a gallon when we were driving to work, when friends were, 20, 30 miles away one way. That's just every day there. Here, so that kind of balances out. The pros, it's very nice here. We are in a località called San Macario. So it's just on the edge of the urbanized area around Lucca. And if you go a mile that way, you're definitely in town. If you go less than a mile the other way, there's fields. It's very rural. So we're kind of in that in-between area where we're not isolated, but we have all the benefits of being near the city. Florence is an hour, 10 minutes away by train. Pisa is 20, 25 minutes away. That's kind of the big city. And that's where the nearest major airport is. It's not as big as Rome, but we can certainly tell friends when they can finally enter Italy that, hey, try and find a flight to Pisa, or Bologna or Florence works too, but Pisa is the most convenient. Pros and cons, we're still settling in. Like I said, it's a beautiful time of year here. I mean, it's gorgeous, just gorgeous. Cons, I don't know. I'll let you know. Let's let you know in a few months.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. That's amazing.
Sure.
I'm so just enthralled listening to everybody talk about their experiences. So, all right, cool. So now we're going to move south. We have Valentina joining us from Palermo. So Valentina is a dual citizenship on the opposite side, in that she was born and raised in Italy, but her mother was American. And so she acquired dual citizenship through her mother, but is a native Italian. So I met her on the expats in Palermo page, and yeah, so she's got some interesting things to share about what it's like in Palermo, and I will give her the floor here.
Hello. Do you see me? Because I don't really understand if you see me, but hello from Palermo. I'm Valentina. Yes, okay. So yes, I'm an Italo-American, so I have both citizen. It's a long story, it's a long family story, but I grew up in Italy, but I've been in the States since I was a child. For summer, I studied there. I studied in New York, in New Jersey, Staten Island. So I know a little bit the difference from these beautiful places, but of course, not 100% for everything, because I grew up more here, but I can tell you a few differences. I live in Sicily, but I was starting to work in tourism because I love to speak languages and to help people since ever. So I was living in Spain and French, and I came back here because my family was here. So, and I start my passion back, it happened, working back in tourism. And I always trying to be always more in contact with people from other country. So something new that happened here in Sicily, that I even see with my work, is that in the last few years, Sicily became a little bit more, touristic. I don't say a lot, but it always been different from Rome and Palermo. We are in an island, it's a big island. There's so many little towns. I live in the bigger city, it's Palermo. So, but now in the last few years, because of the smart working, people who can work online, many people think about it to come in Sicily. So it's something really new here. So many young people and older people, they decide to come here. And why? Well, we have a beautiful sea, the food is gorgeous, the people are friendly. It's cheaper than the north. I was working even in Milano, and it's so expensive. So if you have a work and you stay in Sicily, I can say that it's more warm, it's more nice for many reasons, of course. So, for this, I mean, if you come here thinking to find a job, like many young people used to ask me, I say it's almost impossible. I mean, it's very hard. Even the people who are here, in the past, many people used to emigrate, and still here today, some people they do that. No, it's just that there's a big opportunity for people who works online. If you come here, in the last few years, they put more flights, from Palermo, well, to Rome and Milano, you have it, but from other city in Europe, from Spain and France, and they're starting to put off many other planes. So I had many friends from other country that they stopped here and they were working, and once a month they were taking a plane just to, go in Athens for a few days or to go in London. So you find a cheaper flight and you can move. So if you like this kind of life, it's a very good place to stay, I think. But, it depends what you are looking for and which are your priority, because, it's not that everything works. In the South, we always say, there's good things and bad things everywhere. So, I mean, you can find some private school that they speak English, but around in the city, not so many people used to speak English. Now the younger people, they do. Now they start a little community of expats just a few years ago, but the majority, they are younger people. That's why I had this idea just 2 months ago to open a page of family expats in Palermo, because I met 2 families from the USA that they were coming here for the citizenship. So we became friends, and I tried to give them, information, what to do. So, and I really like to help and to see that there's people with younger children that they like to come here and, to have an experience. So I don't know if they're going to stay here forever, but they choose to stay here for a year or for 4 years. So it's not so complicated even to move. I was going back and forth from Sicily and New York like 30 years ago was more complicated. Now the flight, they're a little bit more cheaper, and you always need to go in Roma and Milano to take another plane to go in the USA. But today it looks less complicated at once. So, and well, there's so many things that I can talk about it, but I don't want to take so much time.
No, well, I mean, happy to have, I'm sure, lots of conversations after this, and even on the website as well, or on the Facebook page as well. So thank you so much for sharing that, Valentina. And then we're going to stay in Sicily. We're just going down the road to Marianne, staying in Termini Imerese, and she'll share her tale with you here.
Well, I love talking about Termini Imerese, which is in the provincia of Palermo. And this is actually my ancestral town. And this is where I obtained my dual citizenship as well. I love Termini and Medici. I had two choices of ancestral towns, and of course, all of Sicily to choose from. But I chose Termini and Medici because for me, this town is perfect. It is perfect. We have a train station that is a hub. So what I mean by that is that all the connections where you need to maybe get off a train and get to a different train, and basically from Termini and Medici, you could go anywhere. And Termini and Medici is about 26,000 people, so it's a great size. Phenomenal, amazing amount of fabulous restaurants for a town this size. Everything, all of the essentials you could possibly need. But of course, I love going to Palermo whenever I get a chance. Of course, lately we've not been able to do that quite as much. But Palermo is just a fabulous, incredible city. And it's only what, 20 minutes?
20 minutes away.
20 minutes away. So we're in a great spot because where Termini and Medici is located, I'm 20 minutes to Palermo. I'm 15 minutes to Cefalù, which has the most beautiful resort beaches, just incredible. If I head south, I can get to Agrigento in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And we're just in such a great location. This is my house. I took the photo of my house. If you see the yellow house, I was coming back down the hill from my friend's house, and I went, oh my gosh, look at that great view of my house from up here on the hill, and I took that photo. The other photo above it is my view to the sea. My friend sitting next to me is American, and Vicky just went through, she's actually purchased a house before I did, but recently retired and moved here on a full-time basis. I retired, I guess now about 3 years ago. And it's just been such a fabulous, wonderful choice that I'm so excited to be here. You know, today, Vicky and Mike, her husband, they rode over here on their bicycles. They live over on the Kakamot side near the lake, near Lago Rosa Marina, which is just absolutely stunning. And then today earlier, we were out picking wild asparagus, which we have here in Sicily. I don't know if it grows anywhere else in Italy, but it's wonderful. I made it with a risotto, and the products here, the agriculture here, I don't know, it just tastes better. Everything seems to, I'm a great cook, but when I cook here, it seems to just be overwhelming, the flavors. It's so amazing. I am 100% Siciliana, and very proud of my heritage. So being here is just incredible. And it's an experience that I would have never expected to have so deeply rooted in my soul. I tell people, and many people say this, once Sicily gets in your head, you can't get Sicily out of your head. Sicily grabs you, takes your heart, your soul, and you'll never, ever forget it. We have everything here from the great transportation, you know, the ancient history is just consumes the island. And
Incredible people.
the people, it just takes me back to my childhood because the people here are so warm. The food is so amazing. I feel like I've come home. You know, the things that people will say, oh, the healthcare in Sicily isn't that great. Well, it's like everywhere in the whole world. You know, you're going to have one person with a bad experience. You're going to have other people who thinks the healthcare system is the greatest thing they've ever experienced. So, so you cannot, you have to really get a feel for everything that we have to offer here. And I have a group that I started called The American Dream is Moving to Sicily, that I invite anyone to join. and can also help with some further assistance with anyone who is interested in coming to Sicily.
Yes, thank you, Marianne. I can second that because I've been on Marianne's page for a while now, and I'm a happy stalker of all things Sicily now. And Termini and Marese, it was never something on my radar, and now it is one of the places. That in Palermo are like the two places we're going to go look. So I have a lot of love for that page. So check it out. She's got a lot of great information, and yeah, so cool. All right, so we're going to jump from south to north, and we're going to go to Jacqueline in Genova, if you go the Italian route there. And she had a really unique story too. They did a family year abroad. So I'm going to let her tell you about that. And here, I'll get out of your way. There you go.
Okay. Hi. So we did a family year abroad. So I'm unlike all of you. I have not moved to Italy permanently, and every place I've heard about so far sounds absolutely amazing. Before we moved, we did a reconnaissance trip, or I did. My brother was living in Naples, and we drove up the boot, and I had narrowed our options to places that had Montessori elementary schools, because I had younger kids then that were in a Montessori school, and I didn't want to rock the boat. And surprisingly, there are very few options in Italy that have Montessori elementary schools. So we were considering Perugia and Como and Genova, among a few others. We knew we didn't want a giant chaotic city like Rome or Milan. And after visiting Perugia, and we had spent time in Lucca, which I absolutely adore, but we knew we didn't want too small or remote of a town. And Genova is kind of like the Goldilocks for us. I live in Portland, Oregon now, which is a small big city, or a big small city, however you want to describe it. And we like that size of town for a lot of reasons. And Genova hit the spot there. We knew we needed to be near a particular specialist for my daughter, a doctor, and Genoa has a children's hospital there that's known throughout Italy. For example, it is well positioned. It has an airport. It has not one, but two train stations. It's fairly easy to get to Milan, not so easy to get to Rome, but it has beaches, it has mountains. If you're into skiing, it's easy to get to skiing areas or wineries or any of that, and so easy to get to the beach. And it's a city with a lot of amenities. So that's why we settled on Genoa, for practicality reasons, and the stars kind of aligned for us to be there. It so happens that a great grandmother's village that I just received my citizenship from last week is in Genoa, but even though I'm mostly Southern Italian. So those were all the reasons. And Genoa is kind of a jewel box of a city. It's got the largest medieval center in, I think, a lot of Europe. So it's very easy to get lost, and there's always something amazing to discover. The center has what's called carugi. There are no cars, and deep dark. I should have found a better picture, but you walk through, easily get lost. You turn one corner, there are prostitutes on the street. You turn another corner, and there's a beautiful church. And not to let the prostitute thing scare you, Genoa's history goes back centuries. Christopher Columbus was there, and it was a port town, and a lot of the Crusades kind of went out of there. Early banking was born out of there. Ventures to the New World and bringing back gold was born out of there. It said people would come back, and it was a port town. Hence, I think the prostitutes have been there for hundreds of years, and it's just part of the city. But let's see. It's a very vertical city, so very easy to get views. There are literally elevators in the city to bring you up to neighborhoods. There are funiculars that bring you up to neighborhoods. There's even one that turns from a train station or a subway to an elevator. So it's a lot of fun to explore the city. And it's really easy to get to the Cinque Terre, for example. Um, so I'm trying to think of what else. Let's see, I made my notes here. It is known for pesto and focaccia and farinata, and it's delicious in that regard. Um, and I guess I would say, and it's got a great climate in terms of no earthquakes, uh, no super cold winters, occasional snow. Summers are like anywhere else hot in Italy, but it has the breeze because you're right on the water. You're a ferry ride away from Corsica, from Sardinia. Easy access to travel, which is another reason we wanted to go there. We wanted a jumping off point. So, for instance, there's a nonstop to Istanbul. It was easy to get to Sicily. It was easy to get to a lot of places by plane and by cheap plane flights. There are in Europe. There's a lot of airlines that, $25 euro flights if you are able to go at a heartbeat. But we landed there because of schools. They had some great public schools and Montessori schools, and that's why we ended up in Genoa. As far as downsides, I think it is reputational. So, for example, when we were traveling in Italy, when we would tell people, "Oh, we live in Genoa," they would be, "Perché Genova?" So Genoa has this reputation that precedes it. And part of that is due to the post-World War II industrial feel that the city has. So it got a reputation for being kind of just this ugly, rundown city. But in 1992, 500-year anniversary of Christopher Columbus, it started to turn around. They cleaned up the port, and now it's become, that is an old reputation that I don't think is fair anymore. And the other reputation that people have are being closed off and grumpy and stingy. And I think that relates to the banking and to the people holding on to their money and the people being attacked by Saracens over and over and over again, where they've learned to mistrust people. But one thing that we were told right away is it's hard to break in, but once you're in for life. And we found that to be true. We made some amazing friendships there, and we will go back. We've been back several times since, and now that I have my citizenship, we are considering, where will we land? And although every place else I'm hearing about sounds amazing, I think we would go back to Genoa because it just kind of built a place in our heart, and we feel we're part of it. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know. I would say that it is worth visiting because a lot of people might tell you not to. Uh, but one other thing that I've heard echoed here, again, for a city, this is the first city I think that has been talked about here. It is not like Florence or Rome, like it's not easy to find English speakers. You will find them and you will find expat Americans, but it is unlike other cities in that regard, where it's its own little place, and its roots are that it used to be the Republic of Genoa that competed with Venice, and it still has a very distinct, distinguished feel to it. And I don't know. I don't even know what. Am I close to my 5 minutes?
Oh yeah,
or
it went off like a minute ago. It's
Oh,
fine.
sorry.
No,
sorry.
you're fine. No, it's totally fine. I feel bad interrupting people. So, but no,
No.
it's great. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, I know we're already like creeping on an hour with all this wonderful information. So, so I know we have folks here too who have purchased or are in, Italy now. Feel free to throw that in the chat as well. And then also feel free to chime in on some of the questions. And then we can also, like I said, take this to the Noi Siamo page. So I'm gonna exit here out of the questions, and I'm gonna pop over to Facebook real quick for some of these questions that people had real quick. And then we can also answer some ones here in the thing. While I'm doing that, I guess, so let's see here. Some people were talking about, while I'm finding these questions, average rent in your town, if anybody could chime in, if like the rent in your particular town would be great while I find these questions. If you guys want to comment on that. I know Emily mentioned, I think hers was 700 euros a month roughly in, yeah, Grosseto.
Yeah, this is Michael. I forgot to mention that. So when we were doing our research, this is Western Tuscany. Of course, in and outside of Florence, forget it. I think I read recently that the average rent consumes an entire average Italian's monthly earnings, which is just insane, but I believe it. So here in this area, we did a lot of research over the last couple of years, and we found that you would pay 600 to 700 euros a month for about 1,000 square feet, 100 square meters, which is about 1,100 square feet, give or take 10 square meters, and one bathroom. One of the reasons we moved here so quickly, kind of all of a sudden last year, is or began that process, was we found an apartment at 700, and we have 1,600 square feet, which is an amazingly big apartment. And we didn't make any compromises as far as we're out in the, not way out in the country. It's not a terrible area, but I would say in general in this area, again, Western Tuscany, a little discovered, but not overly populated by expats, for about 700 euros a month, you probably get 100, 110 square meters in a bathroom, maybe 2 if you're lucky.
Be interesting to hear from the South, because I know rents can vary.
Yeah, so the rents, of course, I purchased my house, and, you know, I live in a home that with the sea views and everything around me. You know, coming from California, Napa Valley, California, I paid probably, you know, a fifth of what I might have paid, maybe even less. So, but I do hear information about the rents, and I think that in my area the rents can range anywhere from 300 to 500 a month. I saw a woman's apartment in Campo Felice di Rogello, which is a beautiful community with an incredible beach, and her rent, she said, was 500 a month. She had a massive apartment, fully furnished, big bathrooms, big rooms altogether, about a three bedroom, 2-bath apartment. And her rent was 500 a month. Also, one thing I wanted to add just real quick, I forgot to mention about schools that I just found out. Palermo has a Waldorf school, in addition to international schools, but I think the opportunities for people to come with families are also, it's also very doable.
Okay, Carly.
Carol, go ahead.
One of the things important to note is I can speak to this because I'm in a beach area, and as Emily said, this is a popular destination for Italian tourists. If you're looking to be in any kind of a beach kind of location, you're always going to be looking at higher rents, and you're also going to be looking at more difficult to find places, because the property owners tend to invest here and then rent, you know, and maximize the benefit of that, knowing that they can get really high rents in the summertime because of the beach. But the rents, it's really hard to answer a question about rents because it really varies all over the country. It depends on the city, the town, the location. There's so many factors with that. I can post right now in the chat a couple of links that I would suggest that if you're interested in looking at different areas, plug in the name of the city and take a look at the apartments. It'll tell you what the rents are, as well as things like what they call them condominio fees if you're renting. But there are also these same sites that I'll put it in the chat right away, have properties for sale as well. So it's really a very hard question to answer. The more remote you are, the less your rent is going to cost. But you have to balance what you want. If you want to be in Rome, obviously, you're going to pay more rent. Even to be near Rome, you're going to pay more rent. So if you want to be, you have to decide what your balance is with that. And the other thing to consider, I I get a little like confused. I've seen and I heard Emily before say how high the utilities are. You're in complete control of that. I have to say, I pay 500 euro a month for my apartment, and my utilities are ridiculously low compared to what I paid in the United States. And I've been here 5 years, so I've moved a few times too. But my utilities run about 60 euro a month for gas and electric. But I live alone, and I know that's a factor, but I don't have air conditioning. I don't have a dryer. It's not the norm here. They exist, people have them, but, I put my clothes outside. I'm conservative. I don't, my apartment's not all that big, but, I don't have lights on all the time. I just, I do what I need to do. And when I hear people say they pay 300 or 400 euro for gas and electric, I'm baffled by that, quite honestly. So I guess it depends on the size of your family and how conscientious you are about how you do those things. But yes, I do also agree with what Emily said. Mobile phone plans here are ridiculously low, like 10 euro a month for unlimited everything. It's crazy. In the United States, you're paying 50, 60 or more. Same goes for internet and the television. Those fees are very, very low as well. But they all have to be factored into what your expenses are. And I wanted to just make one other comment, because there's been not a lot of discussion about healthcare, and I know that was on your slide, Carly. Unless you have some kind of like ongoing medical condition, okay, one of the things about having a national health plan is that you can go anywhere that you want to get healthcare. Your doctor is going to be local, but your doctor doesn't do that much. He's really a conduit to everything else. So if you go to him, as I did, when I had, for example, I had cataracts. And then he gave me the prescription I needed to go and make an appointment to go see the right doctors. When you go to make that appointment, they ask you where you want to go. You can go anywhere in the country. I actually chose to go to Siena because for a variety of reasons, a particular situation I had, but also the reputation that Siena has. But you can choose to go anywhere. You can tell them you want to go to Milan, or you want to go to Rome, or you want to go anywhere. You could, because it's a national health plan. So if there's a situation that you encounter where you need to find a specialist and you have a certain situation, you can make that choice. And we have a hospital here in Orbitello, actually walking distance for me. Everything is walking distance for me. But I still chose, I've been to Grosseto, I've been to the hospital there when I have to have some tests done, and my eye doctor is in Siena. I made that choice. I could have gone to Pisa, another highly reputable. Perugia is another very highly reputable hospital. Milan is probably the center for that. But if you're just an average person with just average healthcare needs, you're going to get pretty much the same level of care. The bigger problem that a lot of expats have is wanting to find a doctor that speaks English. So that's hard to find. But, I have enough, I speak well enough to communicate, but, it's always good to have a local Italian friend that speaks English that can help you with any of that. But learning medical terminology is another chapter. But, overall, as far as aside from the fact that we can't get a gosh darn vaccine here, okay, I'm still waiting. I'm on the wait list now. I can't even make a reservation. I
got mine.
Different regions have been more successful because I guess the distribution has been based on population, irregardless of the age grouping. So any region that has an excess of over 80s, the other people they're not getting to us. Here in Tuscany, there's a lot of elderly people. So the allocation that we got is really being exhausted by the older population. But there's nothing nothing we can do about that. That's not really reflective of the healthcare system, though. But in overall, and what I want to say is that I have no complaints about the healthcare system. My doctor is very accommodating. You don't need an appointment. You just show up at the office whenever you need to. You have to wait, but that's how it is. And if you need a specialist, you can choose where you want to go. You can go on Facebook. You can ask people to recommend whatever that situation might be. In the area that you live in or in any area. I know several people have actually gone to Milan for certain particular things. But I think that overall, even the pharmacists here, you can walk in the pharmacist and you can get antibiotics over the counter. You can get a lot of things over the counter here that you can't get in the United States without a prescription. The pharmacist here will do all kinds of things for you that you couldn't imagine based on what your experience is in the United States is. They are really very capable and they're trained differently and licensed differently. So the healthcare here, I think, should not be a big issue unless you have like an ongoing, some kind of an ongoing health issue. If you have a child with a particular need or yourself with a particular health situation where you need to see a particular specialist on an ongoing basis, that may be a factor for you. But otherwise, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I really, I just think it works really well what they do here.
That's fantastic. I learned a lot from that because that was definitely information I had not heard before. So that's really interesting how they do it. So that's great.
Yeah, I had to ask about that. My eyes. I had a particular situation with my eyes, and so I went to a doctor and I asked him, and he actually, he first said to me, let's try Pisa. We'll see if we can get you in right away. He said, otherwise we'll get you to Siena, Siena, is it's an hour and a half for me to get to Siena. It was lovely to go to Siena on a regular basis for a while I saw him as well,
Right.
Bus in the morning, see the doctor, and then traipse around the city for the rest of the day and take a bus home. So, it was a good day trip.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, great. Thank you. And I'm looking through some of the questions. A lot of the ones that were on the page already, I feel like a lot of you answered. Did you visit the places on your short list? It sounds like a lot of you found them either by chance or had an experience there that kind of led you to do that. Didn't sound like anybody really had any regrets at this point in time. We did have a question about schools. What way can you check out schools in different places? Like here in the US, most public schools have websites. They're not really finding that for the Italian schools, that kind of thing. Is there those of you that have kids, is there anywhere that they can kind of look to learn more about the schools in the areas? Somebody did mention, Marianne gave a couple notes about some international schools type things here, or a different Marianne maybe.
I can chime in on the school thing really briefly. I really scouted ahead of time and reached out to people in the school to get into the school and actually sit and observe and do all that. I'm a total school nerd. So it is challenging. Like I would find people who had blogs who were living in a particular town. And I'm like, oh, what can you tell me about the school? And they might give me the email or the name of like a teacher or principal. And I would reach out to them and, oh, sure, you can come sit in our classroom. And I lined those up ahead of time to get a sense during our reconnaissance trip. But it did take some effort. But I also think worth it because I think we would have picked, oh, that sounds nice. And then once I sat in the school, I'm like, oh my God, we can't go here. So, I think it is worth scouting it out, and very different to go to a local Italian school versus an English, international school, which will cost you a lot more. There's also a big difference in Italy with parochial schools, church schools, in terms of public schools, which are actually considered better than private, where in the US, you might say, I don't want my kid to go to public school, and they send them to like a parochial school in the US, and it's considered better. I would say the opposite is true in Italy. So,
yeah, and Valentina just posted too, in Palermo, there are 2 schools for bilingual children, and then also an international school, and there are private schools there as well. So you can check those out if you're looking particularly in Palermo. Anybody else with any school information? Emily, it looked like you have a child there with you too.
Yeah. I do. He is actually attending school remotely from
Oh.
Colorado.
Easy
So
to do right now.
yeah, he actually is on a national program called Edgenuity,
Oh, okay.
which turned out to be really fortunate. I mean, he doesn't speak a word of Italian right now, and learning at home would have been pretty challenging for a first year student. So, but I will say, you know, the question was, it's difficult to find websites, and yeah, you're not going to find that. I mean, if they do, they're going to be aimed towards parents, but it's very difficult to find information from what I can tell. But I would agree with what was just said, that, you know, the public school system certainly is, it's different. You know, the methods of teaching are different. You know, it's just a very different experience from the American school experience. But next year, the anticipation is that he will get dropped into his first year of middle school and said, good luck. So, you know, I mean, I think we all have different philosophies, but, you know, it's school is school, and they figure it out. So, but a lot of the people that I know here, as far as people that have children, are certainly quite happy with their experiences. And, you know, I wouldn't say you should approach it with fear, but if you know, I mean, if you have the budget to be in a town where there is an international school and you want to pay for that, then by all means, I mean, you should. So it's just everybody's experience is going to be super different.
Okay, great. There were a
Absolutely.
couple questions here. So honestly, everybody's doing a great job in the chat, because I feel like people have been jumping in and answering questions there too, which is helpful. There was one question about, have you guys found that the cities that you stay in are LGBTQ friendly? Like if somebody was LGBTQ, would they find that that city's welcoming to them? That was one I think wasn't answered on the chat.
I know that's a non-issue here, and I'm in a small town. I'm in a small town where the people basically are born and die here. They don't leave here. So, you know, they kind of live in a bubble in some sense. And yet, you know, my experience, I'm not gay, but I have a lot of gay friends, and I've traveled all corners of Italy. And as I said earlier, Italy in overall is much more open-minded about a lot of things. And gays they're just people. They're just people. I know a lot of hotels, if you look on booking.com, for instance, it might say gay friendly, but I find Italy in general to be, I know people here in this tiny town who are interracial relationships. People don't seem to look twice at that. It might be different. I can't speak for everywhere in Italy, but my experience with it is people are very open-minded, non-issue for the most part, non-issue.
Great. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any chime in things there, or
Yeah, I would like to. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay. So what, I agree with Carol. To me, diversity exists because it exists here. And it's who the people of Sicily, okay, I'm going to say Sicily because I can't speak for everyone else, but little town above me, so I'm technically in Termini and Medici, but I'm in the country. Just above me is the beautiful, enchanting medieval town of Kakamot. You enter the town, there's this fabulous castle, one of the biggest, best preserved castles in all of Italy. And it's a town of about 8,000 people. I'm not sure what size Carol's is, but two American gentlemen had a civil service, got married with the mayor in Kakamot, and everyone was just happy because there was this wedding and happy for them. And so I agree with Carol in the sense that I think that's Italy. And so not a problem where I am either.
I want to make a funny, add a funny story to that, and thank you for that. I just feel like the level of people being judgmental here is not the same. And my funny story is this: I would never wear a bikini in the United States. Okay, I don't have that. I don't have a US bikini body. But here in Italy, people wear what they want to wear on the beach. And I have some photos that I've taken of people on the beach because I send them back to my friends back in the States, giggling and laughing. But people don't look at you that way. They don't look at it's this free to be who you are mentality. And if you're happy and you're comfortable, I have seen people, I saw a woman, and I will use the words that are real. She was obese. She was so huge. She couldn't even sit on the beach chair. She had to roll over on her side because if she laid on her back, she would fell over the side of the chair. She was that big. She was in a bikini. Okay. And no one looked twice at her. I mean, she sat right next to me. That's why I saw her. But people are just not judgmental in the same way. They just kind of like, you're just another person. And if you're a good person and you're a nice person and you're, buongiorno, buonasera, you're just pleasant people, that's all they care about. They just, it's more humane in that way.
I found that attitude kind of Europe-wide. Like, people don't really focus on the things that I feel like that we focus on more in the United States. They tend to just, whatever, no problem. Do you?
I agree with you, Carly. Because I've done European,
right? It's very freeing. You just feel like, me.
I guess it's because I think a lot of it has to do with like this, the way people freely cross borders. So you have like this mixing of cultures and mixings of beliefs and religions and colors, skin tones and all of that. You have all of that mixing around. Mm-hmm. And so people just, they like you because they like you. They don't like you because you're white or you're black or you're Asian or you're not Asian or you're not black. That doesn't play into it. Or if you're gay or if you're, what language you speak. It's just about people. And so for that.
People are leaving. So yeah, but yeah, no, fabulous. One last question I guess we'll take. I know a lot of people, like I said, a lot of the questions have been answered here, and I will go make another post after this on the Noi Siamo page so you guys can kind of continue the conversation. If there's anything we didn't answer for you. A couple people were asking about like natural disaster type of things, like seismic activity, earthquakes. Are the areas that you guys in, did that play a factor in your selection? Was that even a thought? Was it, is that a problem where you are? No. So that was just I didn't know if that was a thing. So
well, of course, in Sicily, in Sicily, we have Europe's most active volcano.
Right.
So, right. But and people who did live, who lived in towns nearby, certainly did feel effects of it over this past series of eruptions, because there were actually quite a few. It was where I live. I'm not anywhere near where you really are prone to earthquakes or volcanoes erupting or anything, and of course I'm up high, so and the sea of course is fairly calm compared to hurricanes in the oceans off of the United States. But people around the Catania area and around Mount Etna did feel the effects of it, but nothing here. So other than we did get some ash, which was really unusual because driving, I'm a good 2.5 hours to Catania. So that was a pretty good distance for us to have ash falling around us.
Oh, wow. That's amazing though. But yeah, so and then in the north, I know some other people had said there's sort of, if you're sort of in that middle ridge line of mountains that kind of run through the center of Italy, that's a little more earthquake prone, I think, there, but only certain areas, right? Somebody said Abruzzo.
Kind of Molise has had
Molise, okay.
earthquakes
okay.
over the decades.
Okay. And it seems mainly like in those areas, it's in very, very small towns that are like in the mountainous areas. It's not hitting like the larger towns near the coast and things like that. I mean, just from my experience of having, read articles and things like that over the past.
Yeah, I wonder if that is also the construction. Like I know in southern Italy, has been some cheating with construction along the beach and that sort of.
So, yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it appears that I know we're kind of naturally getting some folks leaving now. So I'll go ahead and wrap us up here. And so I really, like I said, want to say thank you so much to all of our presenters who've participated and all the folks that have come. I think it was a great conversation and I hope that you got something out of it. And I really thank everybody for, like I said, our presenters for participating. It was fabulous. So I will post a post about this on the Noi Siamo Italiani page saying, this is like, hey, if you still have more questions, post here. And then anybody in the group can answer you, if you have a specific location, ask about that. There might be other people who weren't presenters today that do have information on those towns and we'll be happy to contribute. So thanks again so much. And I can't wait to do this again and I'll keep you guys posted. So thanks again.